What's going on, family? Happy Wednesday. It's your boy Crazy Faith, the God in the building. Getting ready to drop some quick value for you guys today. Super hot out here. Hope everybody's enjoying and having a blessed Wednesday, right? So let's dive into it, right? Today's topic is actually going to be breaking. The breaking is the multiplication, right? Breaking is the multiplication, right? So anytime, we're going through trials and tribulations and we're enduring, right? Sometimes we tend to, you know, get broken by God, right? We tend to get broken by God, and it's all coming from a place of growth, right? Without the breaking, without the breaking, you won't see the multiplication, right? And it's kind of like, this is his way of creating us. This is his way of forging us. Without the breaking, without the multiplication, we can't see the new growth. We can't see the new wine that lives within inside of us, right? So we have to get broken, and God knows where to break us to get the wine. God knows where to break us to get the wine. And even me speaking about it right now is making more sense. Is clicking right now, right? So the breaking is in the multiplication. So if you're getting broke, if you're broken right now, if you was on a long strive, right, doing good, and you got broken all of a sudden, that's just the multiplication, right? We got to change the way we see things so that the things can actually change. Without this depth of vision, without seeing the other side of what God is doing, we can get lost. We can think that life is not working for us, and we can digress and go backwards if we're not understanding what the breaking is for, right? So, pretty much, what have I that I've witnessed, all of that I have witnessed so far is me growing, right? And then getting pulled back. Me growing and then getting pulled back, right? So what God does is, if a fruit is bearing more fruit, right? If it's bearing fruit, what he does is he cuts it. He cuts it back so it could bear more fruit, right? And I begin to ask myself, well, God, like, if we're growing and we're blossoming and blooming, why don't you just leave the tree and let it grow? Right? But to bear more fruit, you would have to cut that tree. You would have to cut the tree to bear more fruit. And it's starting to make sense. It's starting to make sense. And this is part of our growth, right? This is how God shapes us, right? Sometimes He presses us down so we can go higher. Sometimes He presses us down so we can go higher. But if we're not aware of the breaking and the power of the breaking to the multiplication, we can get lost and digress. So I feel like I just wanted to give you guys a different perception on what's actually taking place, so that way you guys could be more aligned with it and not get discouraged when you start feeling the breaking, right? The breaking doesn't feel good. But on the other side of the breaking, it feels amazing. It feels amazing. And you have to trust God. You have to trust him in the pain. You got to trust him in the pain. That's a big one right there. I had to take a breath for that. You got to trust him in the pain, right? I got to trust him in the pain when I don't even feel like it. I still got to show my commitment. I still got to show my worth. I still got to show my loyalty, my integrity even in the breaking. I got to still show my integrity, right? Just because you're going through the breaking doesn't mean you get to digress or fall back. You still got to add up. You still got to amount to what you told God. You still got to pay that bill, right? You still got to pay that price on what you told God, right? And some of us, right, when we get broken, we take that as, oh, we could, go backwards. But no, God is actually watching to see what you do when you get broken. Do you keep pushing forward? Do you strive for better? Or do you digress and go back to the old version that serves no purpose, that God can even bless? right? So we got to always be mindful of pushing ourselves forward when we go through the breaking seasons, when we go through the breaking to the multiplication, right? We got to be able to, you know, get broken, understand that's the new wine that's coming in, understand that's the multiplication that's coming in, that's the fruitfulness of your character coming in. This is how he forges us, this is how he creates us, this is how he transforms us. Without the breaking, you pretty much stay the same. Now that I'm thinking about it, if you don't go through the breaking, you just stay at that same version. Wow. You just stay at that same version. I just caught a breakthrough. Without the breaking and the multiplication, you go through you stay the same. You stay the same. Sheesh. Without the breaking and the multiplication, you stay the same. So, you know, we just got to be able to keep pushing, right? And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the transformation. It feels it's hard, but it's worth the fight, right? It's worth the fight because now you get to tap into the new oil. You get to tap into the new glory. That's already lies within inside of you, right? That already lies within inside of you, right? And without this breaking, without this multiplication, we can't be all that God has created us to be. We're pretty much shorting ourselves short when we run from the breaking, when we don't understand the breaking to the multiplication, we kind of sell ourselves short. And we can't allow ourselves to do that. We got to be able to switch our perception, tap into some spiritual development, right? Tap into that spiritual development in order to understand, in order to get better insight of what's truly going on. When I feel like once we get like once we understand what's going on the other side, because I was once that person was working in the spirit, but not understanding what was happening, and I was taking what I thought was bad, which was something good, right? The bad is actually used for good. The breaking is actually used for good for them, and I kept thinking like, damn, this must be bad, but it was actually working for my good, and now that I understand that, I'm able to share the value. But before I didn't understand it and I was taking steps back. So I know some of you was taking steps back, but now that you got the value and the understanding, now you get to push forward and move forward to your highest calling, right? Without that, without that, it's just, the average version of you. And we got to stay away from that. We got to be super aware of the average version. We can't go back to the average. The average version doesn't serve any purpose. I killed that person a long time ago, right? I don't even know who that is. No matter what's happening, I'm staying with the higher version because that's the person that God can bless, and that's the person I like. I love the new version of myself way better than that old version, right? And God will test you to see if you stay with that new version, even in the breaking. He will test you to see if you would stay with that new version or would you digress, right? And I look at it as like it's worth the fight. It's worth the fight for the victory rather than suffering the pain of defeat, right? Think about that. It's worth fighting the fight of victory rather than suffering the pain of defeat. Which one would you rather deal with? Right? I know me, I'd rather win. I'd rather stay in a fight because I already know what it feels like, God forbid, to be defeated. I know what that feels like. And it's not a good feeling at all. It's a miserable, depressing, regretful, unhappy feeling, right? So you might as well stay in a fight and just keep pushing because that fight is actually forging your character, making you stronger into the person that God needs you to be, and he can also bless that person. He can also trust that person. But the moment you digress, it's like, nah, I'm gonna send that situation. I'm gonna send that over again with Jimmy. I'm gonna send that problem over again until you get it right. If you don't pass the test, you're gonna have to take it over, and that's Another regret right there, right? So I want to leave you guys with this, right? I want to leave you guys with this. I want to leave you guys with this, right? If you don't start seeing the breaking as multiplication, then you will stay average, live a mundane life, an average life. You won't be able to tap into the goodness of God and what He's trying to do. You won't even be able to see what He's trying to do, and you won't be able to get the blessings that comes from the multiplication and understanding and just submitting to the breaking part. If you guys don't submit to the breaking, you can't get to the higher version. That's honest. That's so true, and that's so good right there. If you can't get through the breaking, then you can't get to the higher version and what God calls you to be. And trust me, that fight is way better. That fight is way better than suffering the pain of defeat. That fight is way worth it rather than suffering the pain of defeat, right? So I want to take a few minutes to pray over you guys right now, right? I want to take a few minutes to pray over you guys. God, I ask that you can help them, show them the spiritual lens of what you're doing in their lives, right? I ask that you could show us the that you can show us through the spiritual lens of what you're trying to do and how you're trying to forge us and to stay in the fight and just to keep fighting no matter how hard it gets and to be able to worship you even through the pain, right? Even through the pain, we're able to still worship you and put you first no matter what pain we're going through because it's not what we feel, it's all about our spirits and getting through that transformation to get to see what's on the other side of the blessing, right? And we know that if we don't go through the breaking and the transformation, we won't be able to tap into the new version and everything you have for us. So God, give us the strength and endurance and the clear mind to understand